If you're an American, you're reeling from the outcome of the American presidential election, celebrating or commiserating, depending on your particular attitude to particular types of democracy, I suppose, or flavours of political party. But if you're an English or Welsh or Scottish, or like, well, if you're in the UK, it's Lockdown 2, the sequel, and like all sequels, it promises to be derivative and disappointing and difficult without even the novelty of the original. How are we going to get through lockdown in the winter months after we've been through it before, when there's more awareness around COVID, when there's more division around COVID, when COVID has become somewhat politicised, when we're disenchanted with the Conservative government that was still somewhat new and rallied by that kind of British sense of we're all in it together that COVID initially engendered? What are we going to do on an individual and collective level now that we're staring down the barrel of another lockdown? Well, obviously I'm a privileged person, I'm not poor, and I've got a garden and I can afford healthcare. I mean, I guess like so perhaps you don't even want advice from someone like me. But I tell you what I've noticed in life is that most of us live to our means. And in spite of the obvious privileges and advantages of not being poor, for example, speaking to someone that has been poor, what I would say is that whatever it is you're experiencing, that necessarily forms your reality. And I think with something as all-encompassing as a lockdown, we are going to have recourse to certain universal solutions. The first thing we're going to have to do is accept it, unless you're like someone that's banging to protesting about it and thinks, well, this only affects a certain percentage of the population. I think like my personal approach is going to be acceptance. There is a lockdown happening now. The shows that I was going to do in November are not happening. Any plans I thought I was going to have are no longer happening. Any travel I thought I might be doing will not be happening. And then I'm going to have to just live in the day. This is the way I structure my day, inside or outside of a lockdown. But what I've got is a kind of a formula for dealing with reality that helps me to cope when reality doesn't go my way, which, like most of you, I imagine, is a lot of the time. What I do when I wake up is like there's prayer and meditation and sometimes some writing. I think when you're in a situation where there's increased pressure, that you have to increase the things that you do to make you feel okay about yourself. I feel particular sympathy for those of you that are literally trapped, that are trapped on your own, or are trapped and are bringing up young children, or living with people that you don't get on with, heaven forbid if it's a terrible or in any way God, what do I want to say? Like if you're stuck with someone that you're not at all into and it's painful for you, that must be hell. But what I feel like we necessarily have to do is increase the self-care component of our life. Have you ever tried those morning pages recommended in Artist's Way by Julia Cameron? It's a very good way of tuning yourself in the morning. Have you ever tried that app, the tapping solution? Oh my God, that stuff's amazing. Series of different meditations that rely on tapping, literal tapping on various acupuncture points in order to reduce and sometimes eliminate altogether your anxiety. Really worth trying that out. If you don't pray and meditate, if your whole reality is determined, because this won't be like the last one. Do you remember last time there was lots of viral videos of, 2 generations ago was the First World War, 3 generation, one generation, the Second World War, our war is, sitting on the sofa watching TV. It doesn't seem like that, does it now? It doesn't seem such a frivolous thing. There's a sense, I think, that the lockdown has given us of real decline and actual sorrow. I feel that there are significant changes in the way that we're socializing with one another. The contract between us is starting to break down. The basic inability to see what half of someone's face is doing when you're communicating with them is like difficult. Like the easy intimacy of casual exchanges in inconsequential social situations somehow lost. So I feel that, for me, what I'm going to be doing is leaning into the support communities that I'm lucky enough to be a member of, leaning into prayer and meditation, ensuring that I'm going to be looking for, are you going to do some of the brilliant campaigns around school dinners or feeding people? I'm going to look for opportunities for philanthropy and to do things for other people to increase the gratitude, because like I've already acknowledged, I'm in a position of relative privilege. but like I feel that a good way to navigate difficult and challenging times, times that make you feel sorrowful or even depressed, if you can bear to, is to find gratitude in the things that you do have and to demonstrate that gratitude, activate that gratitude through service. I was speaking to a woman today who like works in food banks and in like a sort of community cafes, and the sense of purpose that she has, even though I guess, well, I suppose the food banks are necessarily gonna still be there, like although you know the community cafe that's finished, I would imagine, but I feel that like to if in the event that my life lacks purpose, I find purpose. I like part of my program is to talk to people regularly that I can be useful to, that I can help with their various addiction issues. And I think with something like this lockdown, that I'm going to need to increase my purpose. I've been very heartened by the stories people have told me about like the kind of localized and ordinary acts of service that they found helping people out that live near to them. Like, see, I suppose this lockdown isn't going to be accompanied by those kind of beautiful moments like we saw deer in the high street and the river's all clearer and nature's returning. It's going to be accompanied by a sort of darkening movement into winter. But I suppose what might be revealed, what many of us are hoping for, deeply, deeply hoping for, praying for, is a different kind of society. That see, without yielding to superstition or any kind of magical thinking, it is necessary, I believe, to look at the information we're being presented with by life, by circumstance, and to try to read the subtle, or in some cases not so subtle, implications of it. What are we being told by this pandemic? What's happening to us at a time of such political and cultural strife, of such disparity and division? What's happening to us when there are continual fires and no clear solution? I believe this will be, as the first lockdown was sometimes presented as, an opportunity to go within, to look individually to look at what is important to us individually and socially and culturally. In a way, it's a kind of hastening of the process of self-examination. It's making me realise what is important to me and what is not important to me. All of the frivolous notions attached to creativity have eroded when you see the thousands of spilled dreams represented by little businesses closing down, weddings cancelled and unattended, various pursuits and gatherings banned, the oddly hollow spectacle of top-flight football bereft of the community aspect. All this suggests to me that we need to begin to consider radical alternatives to the way that we organise society beyond centrist political discourse. What is it that needs to be brought to the forefront of our cultural life? What is it that we are lacking? Purpose, meaning, connection. I believe that this time of crisis is an invitation to re-examine what our values are, to re-evaluate what our collective and individual purpose is. I believe, challenging though it will be, and I know a lot of you, many of you will have it a lot harder than I'm going to have it, to re-evaluate our purpose, whether or not there is something new that can emerge from what is increasingly beginning to feel like the end of something.